Native plants spotlight the pawpaw.
Did you know the pawpaw is North America's largest native edible fruit?
The pawpaw thrives in moist, rich soils and is often found in the understory of deciduous forests. They are native to eastern North America.
Edible uses. Enjoyed as fresh ice cream, pawpaw can be used to make delicious, creamy ice cream. Used to make jam, you can also turn pawpaw into flavorful jams. Other uses. Pawpaw can be enjoyed fresh or used in jams, breads, and ice creams. It is rich in vitamin A and C.
Identification flowers dark purple to maroon, bell-shaped appearing in spring.
Plant identification: trunk smooth, gray bark, often with spotchy appearance. Plant identifications: fruit oblong, greenish yellow with a custard like flesh.
Plant identification. Leaves. Large, simple, and teardrop shaped.
Plant looks alike hickory trees. Hickory trees have compound leaves, meaning multiple leaflets joined at one point on a stem, whereas pawpaw leaves are simple and large.
Plant lookalikes: poison ivy. Young pawpaw plants can resemble poison ivy.
Cultural and historical context. High nutritional value, particularly potassium and vitamin A and C. Native to eastern and midwestern U.S. forests, the pawpaw has a long cultural history. The pawpaw has a creamy, yellow, crustal-like flesh. Its tropical flavor is often described as a combination of banana, mango, citrus, and vanilla.
Pawpaws were a staple for many indigenous peoples and early settlers in the Appalachian region, providing a sweet, nutritious food source in late summer. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were known to have cultivated pawpaw trees, and Jefferson even sent seeds from pawpaws to his friends in France.
Pawpaw tree. Smooth leaves. Pawpaw leaves have smooth, entire edges. Large leaves. Pawpaw leaves are typically very large compared to most other plants in eastern North America. Scent. Crossing a pawpaw leaf releases a distinct smell, described as similar to diesel fuel or bell peppers. Terminal bud. Pawpaw leaf clusters have a terminal bud with the last two leaves pointing to the side, unlike a terminal leaf bud found in poison ivy and hickory.
The scent test. For a positive identification, crushing a leaf between your fingers and smelling it, a unique scent described as diesel or bell pepper indicated you have a pawpaw.
Note that the leaf shape and arrangement. Pawpaw leaves are large and simple, while poison ivy leaves have smooth edges and appear in clusters of three, and hickory leaves are compound with multiple leaflets. Fun fact: this root was once traded as medicine across the Appalachian frontier, and its timber was prized for making strong bows by indigenous groups. How did you first learn about the pawpaw and who taught you?
Um, Pawpaws were on our land for several generations, so kind of grew up with them. So I guess from my parents, my grandparents, that's how I learned about them.
I first learned about this plant. I went through forestry school at the University of Tennessee, and so our dendrology professor was the first one who taught me about that plant.
Are there any stories, traditions, or beliefs in your family or community connected to this plant?
Just learning about the plant from my grandmother. My grandmother was very much into nature. Like she would go pick greens from the yard for dinner. Um, so the utilization of what was on our property um, was a big part of my childhood. So fruit trees, pawpaws, cherries, apples, pears, kind of second nature.
It is used as a food source for folks, including some people in my family. that will make use of it. It's technically a tropical fruit, I guess you could say, because it's the only plant in its family that grows outside the tropics. And so there are lots of stories of people using it and collecting those during the fall.
How do you use this plant?
Well, it has several uses. You can just peel it and eat it, just like any other fruit. You can use it to make different kinds of delicacies. So you can make breads into it. You can do like a pawpaw butter. And then there's medicinal uses to it. So you can use it medicinally as well as a food. So,
Just as a fresh fruit, you can eat it. You can collect it, and usually in September is when you collect it and eat it. It's I haven't made it myself, but I've had pawpaw ice cream that people have made. I've also had some pawpaw fruit leather, like fruit roll-ups. Somebody had made that, and some banana nut bread that used pawpaw instead of bananas.
When and where do you harvest this plant?
it's usually harvested from August to October. There's some people will say wait until after the first frost. Some people say you need to harvest it before the frost. If you wait until after the frost, then the fruit turns a little darker, so the taste is a little bit different if you wait until after the first frost. So anywhere from August to October.
You're usually going to want to harvest that in the fall. Normally September is when it's ripe. You'll see the fruits all through the summer, but they're not ripe until the fall. And usually in bottomland is where you find them. I know there are several pawpaw trees along the Greenbelt here in Big Stone Gap, and in St. Paul along the river, the Clinch River. There's also some pawpaws that grow.
How do you know when this plant is ready to eat, and how do you repair it?
You'll know it's ready to eat. The fruit will turn from a darker green to a lighter green, or even almost like a yellowish green to a brown. Um, and it just kind of depends on your taste of the fruit. The fruit has a taste similar to a banana or a cross between a banana and a mango. So, just like a banana, some people like their bananas with a little bit of green on top, and that taste of a banana is different than if you have it when it's a little brown, more brown spots on it. And the pawpaw is the same way. So depending on what your taste is like for the pawpaw will depend on when you once it hits the ground, then it is, as long as it's not too badly bruised, then it's ready to eat. But if you pick it off the tree, you want to wait until it gets a little more yellow and not so much green.
It's ready to eat because it gets soft, and it's if you're familiar with the way bananas turn black, and in my opinion that's a little too ripe, but that's about how ripe you want the pawpaws. You're going to squeeze them; they're going to be kind of soft, just like that overly ripe banana. And the way you prepare them is you just peel them, and it's got huge seeds in it, so you scoop the seeds out, and then you eat the yellow flesh that's inside.
Have you passed down knowledge about this plant to others?
To my children, my oldest son and I went and picked pawpaws from our property just, well, this past year. I guess it was about middle to end of September. We went and harvested pawpaws. And if you don't know what the pawpaw seed looks like, um, that's the seed. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but that's the pawpaw seed. So yes, my children have been taught the pawpaws.
I have. Again, through my job, we have done some tree ID hikes and various things. We have a group of volunteers, the master naturalists, and we've identified some pawpaws when we're in the woods and passed along what information I know about it to them.
Have you noticed a change in the size and quantities of the harvests each year?
Actually, I have, and that's a very good question. The pawpaws, when I was growing up, seemed to be a bit larger than what they are now. The ones that my son and I picked earlier this year, probably about half the size of what they were when I was growing up. So, and there weren't as many pawpaws on the tree as as they were in years past. So yeah, I have noticed a difference.
Not necessarily each year, but I know that each year will be a little different. One year, it's just like with a lot of crops, like apples or pears. Some years you'll get a heavy harvest, some years not so much, and so that does vary from year to year depending on if we've had a drought, for example. You're not going to get as many pawpaws in the fall.
How has your knowledge grown over the years around this plant, and where did the knowledge come from?
Growing up, I didn't know as much about the pawpaw. Later in life, I just done research on the pawpaw, on native plants just in general, or plants even in general. Um, I just knew it was a plant that was on our property and it was a delicacy because it's kind of a sweet plant. And then later in life, then I learned of all of its medicinal properties and what kind of vitamins and minerals it held and the benefits of the pawpaw.
Well, a big leap in knowledge. I worked for Kentucky Cooperative Extension for several years, and we were affiliated with Kentucky State University. And there's a research farm they have in Frankfort, Kentucky, where they've got acres and acres of pawpaws planted, and they have a professor he's probably considered the world expert on pawpaws. And they do a lot of cultivars. There are about 40 different cultivars of pawpaws now, some that have been developed beyond what the natural is, and there's some that have a flavor closer to mango and things like that. So I got to experience some of those different flavors.
What are the growing conditions for pawpaw?
You need a well-drained soil. It needs to be a richer soil so it won't grow as easily in like a clay soil. So it needs to have a richer soil base with well-drained soil. It needs to have a fairly decent amount of sunlight because the taste is more like a tropical flavor. So it does need a lot of sunlight, and it needs especially the younger plants, it needs a good amount of water. As it grows older, it can survive with not as much, but it still needs to have well-drained soil and plenty of sunlight. Okay, on the pawpaw, they're loaded with a lot of antioxidants, so they're a good fruit for some cancer patients have used it, and it's really good. They're high in vitamin C. Pawpaws can also be used if you have like skin irritations. So they're good for skin irritations, minor burns. If you have an open wound, it's good to debris that wound to get fresh skin in there growing. They date back all the way back to a Spanish explorer, De Soto. And Lewis and Clark ate them on their journeys back. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson also have pawpaws on their estate. So they've been in our area for quite some time. And in the beneficial properties with the antioxidants and such are, I think they're a fruit that's overlooked a lot, and they're not very common. Like you don't find them a lot in the grocery stores and stuff. It's whoever had them on their property.
Hello, my name is David Goodman, and I want to take the opportunity to thank Union High School for allowing us to do this project, the community members who came out to be interviewed, and my students, Malachi Dukes, Aiden Hall, Corey Witt-Bledsoe, and Kemper Bartee, for developing and creating this project. I also wanted to especially thank the Virginia Humanities, who were the ones that provided the grant funding that made this whole project possible.